When I think back to all the nonsense they fed me in school, I'm surprised I can think at all, thought Roy Robinson as he drove west on Highway 17. His mind had been wandering all morning. He smiled grimly, thinking that his lack of higher education hadn't hurt him. He could still read the graffiti on the walls. As a teenager and throughout his schooling, Roy had been taught that honesty, loyalty, and fidelity were worthy qualities that everyone should value and strive for. Now those ideals seemed to be coming back to haunt him. Donna seemed a little distracted. Perhaps distant would be a more appropriate word, considering that their son had left for college 3 months ago. He couldn't figure out what exactly had changed, but Roy knew that he and Donna hadn't been on the same page lately. Everything became clear when Ben Miller called him from work. Roy and Ben had been friends since high school, when they had a falling out over something trivial. Neither of them was seriously hurt, but after the fight, they developed a mutual respect for each other. Within a few weeks, they became best friends and have remained so ever since. Ben worked at the same large insurance company as Donna. He was an actuary, and Donna worked in the IT department. Ben's office was several floors above Donna's, so they rarely spoke at work. But that didn't stop Ben from overhearing a conversation one morning. "Roy, you're not going to like this, but I wouldn't be a good friend if I didn't tell you what I heard," Ben said as soon as Roy answered the phone. "The other day, I had to drop off some documents at the reception desk. The taco I had for lunch decided to rebel as I was walking toward the desk, so I rushed to the restroom on the first floor. While I was in the stall, 2 guys came in, and I overheard their conversation. The guy named Jim was telling the other guy how he was going to spend the next 2 nights with a woman named Donna. She had some kind of seminar in Corning, New York, and he had convinced her to take him with her and share her room and bed." "That's all I heard, Roy. I don't know if he was talking about your Donna or if it was true," Ben admitted. "I'd like to know about that conversation if my wife's name was Donna." "That's interesting," Roy admitted, surprised. "Donna's leaving for Corning tomorrow for a course. She'll be gone for 2 nights. Now I'm worried." "I don't know what you can do," Ben replied. "If you make her stay home and tell her why, she'll just say I made it all up or that the 2 guys I overheard were probably talking about some other Donna. I think I'll take a couple of days off and go after her tomorrow. I have to find out if she's cheating on me," Roy said decisively. "Why don't you take my Camry?" Ben suggested. "It looks like a million other Toyotas on the road. Donna won't notice you following her." The next day, Roy woke up before Donna. He drove to Ben's house and swapped cars with him. Ben couldn't help commenting on Roy's modified Mustang with a Chevrolet engine and Dodge Hellcat front end. "What's wrong with you?" Ben asked, looking at Roy's car. "Who the hell does crazy things like that to a car? God made them to get you from one place to another, not to pamper them like Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders." "She's cute, isn't she?" Roy smiled proudly. "You're right about trading cars. Your crappy Camry doesn't stand out like Martha does." "You named your damn car?" Ben asked in surprise. "How old are you? You're still crazy after all these years." "When I drive Martha, I feel young," Roy insisted. "Yeah, I remember all the girls you had in school when you were really young," Ben replied sarcastically. "Did you ever go on a date?" "If you gathered all the girls I knew when I was single and brought them to your place for one night, you'd do much better than I did," Roy admitted with a laugh. "Just be careful with my car. I don't want any scratches on it." "No problem. I'll take my BMW to work. Maybe we can put that crappy Hellstand Camaro in the garage so I don't embarrass myself," Ben suggested. Roy returned home and parked near his house. He sat down and waited for Donna to leave. Shortly after 10, her car pulled out onto the street, and Roy followed her at a distance of half a mile. Roy felt pretty lousy following her. He had always trusted Donna, and spying on her just felt wrong, but he had to do it. 5 minutes later, Donna called him on his cell phone. "You left early this morning without even saying goodbye," she grumbled. "You know I'll be in Corning for 2 nights. I thought you could have at least kissed me goodbye." Not just a kiss, that would have been the least I could do, Roy replied sharply. You've practically ignored me for the last few months. A quick kiss is all I can expect from you. Are you sulking like a little boy? Donna asked. All you think about is sex. You never think about how I feel. Women like to be courted and fed. Your bang-bang thank you, ma'am, doesn't work on me. I need to be in the mood. Sure, Roy replied sarcastically. Let me know when you're in the mood, and if my mood matches yours, we'll have sex like rabbits. Not with that attitude, Donna growled. You'll be waiting a long time before you get anything. I don't have to. Roy hung up. Why should he listen to her nonsense when she was cheating on him? Why should he care what she said? He realized that he had already believed Donna's theory that she was cheating on him. His attitude toward her had changed dramatically in less than a day. If a woman refuses to have sex and treats her husband like shit, what the hell reason does he have to stay with her? Their son was in college and doing well. If Donna was denying him sex and communication, why stay married? Roy's phone rang again. He looked at the number and saw that it was Donna, so he ignored the call. She wasn't going to say anything he wanted to hear, so why answer her call? When the phone stopped ringing, he noticed that Donna was no longer driving on the road leading to Highway 17. She turned onto a side street and pulled into a paved driveway. As soon as she stopped, some jerk ran out of the house. He threw a gym bag into the trunk and climbed into the passenger seat. Then he leaned over and kissed Donna. Apparently, she was in the mood now. This is going to be 2 wonderful days, Jim Gamble exclaimed, pulling his lips away from Donna's and squeezing her right breast slightly. I can't wait to have you lying naked on your back. You're very enthusiastic, Donna replied with a smile, removing Jim's hand from her breast. We're too close to home to kiss and be romantic. Wait until we get further away. Roy drove past several houses and turned into a driveway to see what was going on. After another, slightly quicker kiss, Donna pulled out onto the street and returned to the main intersection. Turning left, she was now heading in the right direction, toward Corning. It looked like this jerk was going to accompany her on her 2-day trip. Roy was stunned. He wasn't surprised by her actions, only regretful and sad that it had ended this way. He considered going home. He had seen enough to understand what was going on, but he felt he had to see it through. Donna might say she was giving this pathetic bastard a ride to the bus stop or somewhere else. Roy was driving down 17th Street a few cars behind Donna when she moved into the right lane and turned onto the exit ramp. He had enough time to turn onto the same exit ramp. She pulled into a gas station and got out to fill up her tank. Roy parked across the street in the parking lot of a rundown bar and watched her. Donna had just returned the hose to the gas pump when her lover came out of the gas station with a plastic bag that Roy suspected contained drinks and snacks. As he approached Donna's car, 2 men ran out from behind the gas station. One rushed toward Donna, while the other approached her boyfriend. Donna was completely taken by surprise when the stranger quickly approached her. In his left hand, he was clutching a large knife, which he had hidden from the gas station's security cameras under his jacket. I'm driving, bitch. Just get in the back and shut up, was all he said as he pushed the shaken woman into the back seat. Roy saw Donna suddenly start to tremble and cry. At the same time, her boyfriend, hearing something, shook his head and tried to push the attacker away. The man quickly punched the idiot in the stomach and shoved him into the back seat while he was still writhing in pain. Donna was quickly ushered into the other back seat by a man who approached her. As soon as she sat down and the door closed, the guy jumped behind the wheel and carefully pulled out onto the road. It was obvious to Roy that something was wrong between Donna and her boyfriend. Roy managed to gather his strength and began to follow them. He took out his cell phone to call 911, but the damn thing was dead as a doornail. He had a charging cable in his back pocket, but he didn't dare look for it, afraid of losing sight of Donna's car as it sped toward 17th Street, but this time on the eastbound ramp. Following Donna's car was easier than Roy had expected. She was driving at the speed limit and staying in the right lane. Apparently, the driver realized that driving cautiously would arouse much less suspicion. Roy finally took the charger out of his back pocket. Then he realized he didn't know if the old Camry he borrowed from Ben had a port he could use, or where it was if it did. He tried to look at the dashboard without taking his eyes off Donna's car. As soon as he found the USB port, the other car turned onto the 86 exit at the depot. Roy smiled and quickly followed. By a lucky coincidence, the men turned off 17th Street just a few miles from his house. He knew the area well. "Where are you taking us?" Donna asked as her initial fear began to give way to panic. "You can take our money. Just let us go. We won't even call the police, I promise." The criminal in the front passenger seat turned sharply and stared at Donna. She was shocked by his gaze. There was no hope in his eyes, only rage. "This damn car is worth more money than I've ever seen in one place. I'm just a poor guy, though you'd never waste your time getting to know me or even caring about me. I gave up the right thing for a few vague promises." "It's all lies. I hear what you're really saying. You'll call the police as soon as you get the chance. But you won't get the chance. We'll stay away from you, go somewhere you've never been if you had a choice. Only bums go there. Only poor people know places like that." "I have friends in the state police," Jim insisted. "You bastards will be hunted down to the gates of hell for this shit. Just let us go. You'll be better off in the end." "Here's what you don't understand," said the man in the passenger seat. "There's no long-term perspective for people like us. We tried to find work, but no one would hire us except prostitutes. We don't even have the money to pay them." "You're just unlucky that we picked you two," added the driver. "We took some money from a pharmacy near the gas station. Things got a little messy and our driver ran away, so we had to improvise. You were filling up your car and had the keys in your hand, so we chose you." "You robbed a pharmacy?" Jim croaked. "You won't get away with this. The police will put you in jail before nightfall." "I hope not," the driver replied sharply. "We won't give up, and they'll have to take extreme measures to catch us. You could end up in the crosshairs." Roy fell behind the car when it turned onto a narrow road. Then it turned onto a gravel road, but Roy kept going. He knew what property the carjackers had chosen. It belonged to the Turner family, but had been bought by people from New York many years ago. They had put a couple of mobile homes on the property to use on weekends and in the summer. Roy had heard that the owners had died, and their children didn't care about the place. The trailers had been abandoned for years. The last time Roy had seen them was 2 years ago during hunting season, and the property looked extremely run down. Roy knew there wasn't a house within a few miles, at least not one he wanted to approach. The residents of this rural area of New York State didn't like strangers coming around. They had little reason to trust the government or the police. The problem was that there was virtually no cell phone reception in the area. The mountains effectively blocked signals from all the towers located several miles away. Even if he had a charged phone, he would have little chance of getting a signal. He turned onto an abandoned forest road and parked. The thought of leaving Donna with those people made Roy furious. He had loved her his entire adult life. She had given him a son. He couldn't bring himself to abandon her when she needed him so much. Husbands protect their wives. It's their duty. "What's your name?" the driver asked, stopping next to what had once been a mobile home. Now it resembled a sculpture of metal and wood sinking into the ground. When none of the captives answered, the man snatched Donna's purse from her hands and opened it. Seeing $300 and several credit cards in the wallet, he smiled. He shoved them into his pocket, then pulled out the wallet. "God bless you, Mrs. Robinson. We can really use this money," the driver said, continuing to rummage through Donna's wallet. "Mrs. Robinson?" his partner asked, examining the wallet he had just pulled from Jim's back pocket. "This guy's name is James Gamble. Are you sure she's married?" "There's an envelope with Yankees tickets addressed to Mrs. Donna Robinson and several photos of her with some guy who's definitely not this guy." "Are you a widow, Mrs. Robinson, or are you having an affair with this jerk?" Judging by the way you're blushing and looking at the floor, I think you answered my question, the man remarked with a smirk. We may be robbers and thieves, but you have a little secret, just a Robinson romance. Did you know, Mrs. Robinson, that Joltin' Joe is dead? It looks like your husband will soon be just a memory. If you had stayed home with him instead of chasing after this loser, you'd be much better off. He's just a colleague. We were going to a 2-day seminar in Corning for work. I love my husband, Donna insisted. Were you going to sleep with your colleague tonight? Prodded another robber, who was now waving his gun. Look how red she is, the driver pointed out. They were going to sleep together tonight, and they act like they're better than us. But there's nothing worse than a liar and a cheater. I hope you managed to hide this from the kids, Mrs. Robinson. You don't want them to find out their mother is a whore. I'm not a whore, and my son knows I would never cheat on my husband. I've never cheated, Donna declared. Was that your first time, so to speak? Asked the man Donna now considered her driver. You're so unlucky. Maybe Nick and I can help you make up for it. We're younger and better than James. If you want another man, we'll make sure he's yours, and not just one. Guys, Jim began in a conciliatory tone, we don't want any trouble, but it smells like a cat toilet in here. Let's go to town, grab a bite to eat, and discuss the situation. I'm sure we can find a solution that works for everyone. No way, asshole. It stinks here because we sometimes cook meth. That's why we had to borrow something from the pharmacy. And we don't need your pathetic ass here, said the driver. Why don't you take him for a walk, Nick? No, you can't want that, Jim reasoned, trying to contain his panic. That's murder. What will your parents and friends think if they find out you killed a man? Are you kidding? Nick replied. In my small town, no one needed me. I was just my father's son. He died when I was 15, and no one cared about me. Come on. Jim glanced quickly at Donna, then made up his mind. He suddenly turned and ran. He hid behind a maple tree just as he heard a shot behind him. The bullet hit the tree next to his head. Several fragments pierced the skin on his neck. The burning pain only spurred him on, and he quickened his pace along the winding path through the woods. When the shooter realized he had missed, he gave chase, hoping to get a shot when Jim ran out into the open. He was younger and in better shape than Jim, so he had no doubt he could catch up with the fugitive before he got too far away. Suddenly, Nick tripped over a branch. He raised his hand to rub his forehead, but the branch hit him in the jaw. Nick staggered back a step or two and looked incredulously at the mountain laurel bush to his left. He caught a glimpse of a piece of wood before it hit him in the temple, and everything went black. Roy wasted no time making his way through the woods to the wrecked trailers. He almost tripped over a foot-long oak branch. Realizing it could make a decent weapon, Roy picked it up and took it with him. As he expected, he found Donna's car parked in a small clearing among the trees. Moving forward slowly, Roy could clearly hear the conversation. Roy heard the man with the gun order Jim to leave. He was clearly going to shoot Donna's boyfriend. Roy saw Jim suddenly rush toward the trees. Jim ran past Roy's hiding place just as a shot hit the tree next to Jim's head. Roy gave Jim credit. For a man his age, he was very agile. Roy was ready when the man with the gun ran out from behind the tree he had just shot at. Not wanting to kill him, Roy hit him with his oak stick, not using all his strength. To his surprise, the shooter was struck in the forehead but managed to stay on his feet. Roy quickly hit him twice more on the head, and the man finally fell like a sack of potatoes. Roy immediately backed away into the bushes, afraid that another gangster would come to his partner's aid. He sat motionless for over a minute. When no one appeared, Roy decided that the other man must not have noticed that his partner was in trouble. Roy carefully made his way through the bushes to Donna's car. It took several minutes because he concentrated on not making a sound. When he reached Donna's car, he peered cautiously through the windows. He was shocked to see Donna tied to a small, dilapidated porch. She was facing the structure, her wrists tied to a pair of rotten posts. Her kidnapper was cutting her clothes with a knife, and Donna was crying pitifully. Roy was surprised at how quickly his anger flared up. The bitch deserved what was being done to her, but Roy took no pleasure in her plight. Roy tried to come up with a plan while the man cut off Donna's last piece of clothing, her black lace panties. Donna begged the man to let her go and he hit her hard on her left buttock. The sound of his palm echoed through the forest. Then he did the same to her right buttock. Now Donna was bent over the old porch, her face buried in the rotten boards, her hair scattered around her. Roy had learned his lesson when the first guy he hit didn't go down right away. This time, he hit with all his strength. The man groaned and collapsed on top of Donna, who was now almost catatonic. Roy reached out to pull the man off Donna when the silence was broken by several loud sirens. Roy looked down the gravel driveway and saw an old Mercedes speeding down it at a speed that was far beyond reasonable. Several flashing lights approached the car, which disappeared from view behind the second trailer. Roy made a quick decision and hurried back into the thick forest. No one had seen him, and he didn't want to tell the police about this dirty business. He saw no legal or psychological benefit in getting involved in this mess. So he quickly made his way through the forest and returned to the Camry. Roy checked his cell phone, but it was still dead. That suited him fine. He obeyed all traffic laws as he drove back to Ben. "Ben, I don't want to talk much about how my day went. The less you know, the better," Roy explained as he handed the keys to the Camry to his friend. "I'm not asking you to lie if the police ask questions, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't say anything to them. As far as I know, they have no reason to look for you or your car." Ben studied Roy's face for a few seconds before nodding. "I'm sure there will be a lot of rumors at work tomorrow. I'll keep my mouth shut until the cops come to me with questions. I have a family, and I can't risk their lives by lying to the police." "I would never ask you to lie," Roy replied. "I'm just asking you not to say anything to anyone. I appreciate everything you've done for me. It's good to have at least one loyal friend." "Okay, but I'll wait until everything settles down to hear the whole story over a couple of cold beers," Ben replied with a crooked smile. It must have been interesting. Roy returned home as the sun was setting. He reheated the leftover lasagna Donna had made for him and washed it down with a few beers. By 10 o'clock, he was in bed and asleep. "What's the matter with you, Roy? You can't answer the door in your underwear," shouted Donna's mother, Clara. "Oh, yeah, of course," Roy replied, slamming the door shut and locking it. He was halfway to his bedroom when the doorbell rang again. He grinned as he closed his bedroom door and stretched out on his bed. The incessant ringing of the doorbell was balm for his soul. It wasn't Donna and her parents, but they had raised that bitch. He would no longer put up with his mother-in-law's nonsense. Roy woke up to a bright, cheerful morning. He had already taken time off work because he was going to follow Donna to Corning. He shaved, took a shower, and then went about the usual business a man does when he realizes he can't trust his wife. He managed to find a lawyer who agreed to take his case that same day, so he spent the morning dealing with financial matters. Donna gave up trying to survive. Jim ran into the woods, and that crazy bastard chased after him and shot him. It was only a minute before the driver tied her hands to the posts of a rotten porch in front of a dilapidated mobile home. She was left alone with the psychopath. Unable to see what was happening, she relied on her hearing. The car braked, and the door slammed. She heard several voices that sounded like police officers ordering a man to raise his hands. He must have done as he was told, because there were no shots. The lifeless body of the man lying on top of her was carried away, and her hands were released. A police officer handed her a blanket and a bottle of water. She wrapped herself in the blanket and drank the water. Then the questions began. Donna explained how she and her friend Jim had been kidnapped at the gas station and brought to this place. She couldn't explain where the man who had tried to rape her had gotten the wound on his head. While she was being questioned, a second man was found on the trail. He had also been severely beaten. Donna again couldn't explain to the police how it had happened. He was chasing Jim, so I think Jim found a way to hit him with a club before he was shot again, Donna reasoned, analyzing the situation. You didn't find any other bodies or a lot of blood, did you? An ambulance arrived and loaded the man who had tied Donna up and tried to rape her into the vehicle. As soon as the ambulance left, another one arrived to take another unconscious gang member to the hospital. Donna was taken to the state police headquarters for questioning after being given clean clothes. It was a small station, so she could clearly hear Jim talking to the police when he arrived about half an hour after her. Donna wanted them to be given time to come up with a story, but she and Jim were questioned separately. Jim was a single man who, to the best of his knowledge, had never broken the law, so he cooperated fully with the police. He explained how he ended up in the car with Donna and why. However, he couldn't explain where the two kidnappers had gotten their injuries. He just ran until he heard the noise of traffic. He headed in that direction and was able to flag down a motorist who called the police. Donna tried several times to call Roy from the police station, but his phone was turned off. In desperation, she called her parents and asked them to find Roy and tell him about her problems. She needed his help. It was after 1 a.m. when her parents entered the room at the police station. It was obvious that none of them were in a good mood. "Where's Roy?" Donna asked. "You couldn't find him?" "We found that pathetic bastard, but when your mother yelled at him for opening the door in his underwear, he slammed the door in our faces and locked it," her father said. "We rang the doorbell and knocked for half an hour, but he wouldn't open it. I needed him, and Mom yells at him for not wearing proper clothes to answer the damn door. Did you think he'd just roll out of bed and run to the police?" Donna growled. "Why do you always have to tell him what he's doing wrong? Is it so hard to be nicer to him?" "After tonight, your father and I won't even go near him," her mother declared defiantly. "His wife needs help, and he answers the door in his underwear? Then he's not dressed properly and won't talk to us? I'm sick and tired of your husband. He can go to hell." "What am I supposed to do now, Mom?" Donna asked, trying to sound calmer than she felt. "It's the middle of the night. My car is involved in a criminal investigation, and you don't approve of Roy's night clothes, so I'm stuck here." "Let's go home and get some rest," her father suggested. "We'll figure this out in the morning. I want to hear how you got yourself into this mess." When Roy returned home after meeting with his new lawyer, Donna was sitting in the living room. He nodded to her as he headed for the stairs. "Aren't you curious why I'm home?" Donna asked. "Why is your phone off? Why aren't you at work?" Roy kept walking. He went upstairs and changed into more comfortable clothes for working in the yard. When he returned to the living room, Donna was in tears. "I asked you some questions and I'm waiting for answers," Donna said angrily. "You can't just ignore me like you ignored my mother." "That was pretty funny," Roy replied with a smirk. "The old bitch thought she had the right to yell at me for not opening the door the way she wanted. I think she realized she shouldn't do that anymore." "Funny?" Donna repeated. "I sent her to get you because I needed you and your phone was off. You're never around when you're needed." Roy couldn't help but remember the previous day when his wife had been tied up and stripped naked, and a stranger was about to rape her. He had been there when she needed him, but she hadn't been there for him in a very long time. Nodding, Roy forced himself to smile and went out to the garage to get the lawnmower. He just didn't see the point in listening to all the nonsense his wife was about to dump on him. When the garage door opened, Donna burst in, furious. "What's wrong with you? I was talking to you and you just walked away. Are you drunk or something?" "Look, here's the newspaper from Binghamton," Roy said calmly, pointing to the newspaper lying on the driveway. "Read this nonsense, then we'll talk, bitch." Donna was shocked by Roy's tone. He had never spoken to her like that before. He had never even sworn in her presence. With undisguised anxiety, she picked up the newspaper. The headline was alarming. The article itself was even worse. Roy had already read the newspaper at his lawyer's office, so he knew what it was about. In short, it was pretty simple. Donna's lover had sung like a canary. The newspaper had interviewed him as he was leaving the police station and managed to get it into the next issue. He claimed that he and his married mistress were on their way to Corning for a business seminar love affair when they were kidnapped by drug-addicted murderers. He managed to escape when they used him as a target for target practice. By the time he had safely escaped and stopped a car to call for help, state police had tracked down the missing driver and found the robber's hideout. The criminals were taken into custody and his girlfriend was rescued. Donna felt sick when she read Jim's story in the newspaper. After reading the article, she read it again. Her name was not mentioned. Maybe no one would connect her to Jim. Then she saw the police version of events. It was printed next to Jim's interview, also on the front page. Her name, age, address, and marital status were listed. Nicholas Brennan, William Lansing, and Bo Jackson had been arrested and charged with numerous crimes, including kidnapping and unlawful detention. There was no mention of why Jim was with her, but after reading both articles, the whole sordid story became clear. The only mystery that remained was how the two kidnappers had been knocked unconscious. The police suspected that some kind of Good Samaritan had knocked them unconscious, but they couldn't explain why he wasn't there when they arrived, and they had no leads to identify him. Donna was so engrossed in reading the articles that she didn't notice Roy pulling out the lawnmower and starting to mow the lawn. She staggered back into the house, sat down at the kitchen table, and waited for Roy. While she waited, she noticed two suitcases standing by the back door. An hour later, Roy came in from the garage, went to the refrigerator, and took out a beer. Donna tried to catch a hint of what he was thinking in his eyes, but saw no emotion. "I'm sorry," Donna began. "I humiliated myself and put you in an awkward position. I didn't want it to turn out this way. It hurts me to see you suffer. I wish there was something I could do to make you smile again." "How did you humiliate yourself?" Roy asked quietly. "What were you trying to achieve? And how is that different from reality?" "Don't be modest, Roy. It doesn't suit you. I ruined everything. I was almost raped and killed. I was hoping to spend 2 nights in the arms of another man," Donna confessed. "It would have been my first time cheating on you. If it helps, Jim and I never had sex. I've never slept with anyone but you." "I understand," Roy replied. "You fell in love with another man. You just had to sleep with him. You left me for that, Jim. It's like a kick in the ass, if you know what I mean." "No, I never stopped loving you, Roy. I don't feel anything for Jim. He was just a guy who satisfied my needs. I never intended to leave you," Donna insisted. "If you love me, give me another chance." "Don't talk to me about love," Roy growled. "I've heard all those words before, but they mean nothing. I'm not going back to feelings that are dead. If I had never loved you, I would never have cried. Now it's over. You turned my heart to stone, or rather, to a cursed stone. Now it's a cursed island, and it's all because of you. You know what? It doesn't matter because stones don't feel pain. Islands never cry.